My name is Martha Calloway. I'm 49 years old and work as an accounting manager for a mid-sized publishing company in Chicago. I had just stepped out of the hospital waiting room into a quiet hallway when I got the phone call that changed everything. Jack, my husband of 26 years, was on the other end. His voice was light, almost cheerful. I've emptied our accounts, and I'm moving to Miami. Good luck with your annoying mom. He laughed after he said it, loudly, cruelly. My stomach dropped. People nearby turned to look at me, startled by the sudden sound. I moved quickly into a small alcove near the vending machines, holding the phone tightly. Jack, what are you talking about? I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. You heard me, Martha, he said, still sounding far too pleased with himself. After 26 years, I'm finally free. I've moved all the money, checking, savings, investments, it's all mine now. I deserve it. My hand trembled as I looked through the glass window. I could see the nurses and doctors wheeling my mother toward the operating room. She was sedated and peaceful, but I knew this surgery was important. The doctors had explained that without it, she wouldn't fully recover from her stroke. Jack, I said quietly, I need to go. Mom's heading into surgery. Of course she is, he said with a bitter laugh. She's always been more important to you than I ever was. Good luck with the medical bills. Then he hung up. I slipped my phone into my pocket and took a deep breath. I walked back into the waiting room, heart pounding. My mother's surgery would take 4 hours. It wasn't life-threatening, but it was expensive. Even with insurance, we were supposed to use money from our savings. The savings Jack had just taken. I sat down slowly, pulled out my phone again, and opened our banking app. Checking, $437. Savings, $0. Investment account, error message, no access. It was all true. Jack really had cleaned everything out. But here's the thing, I wasn't completely shocked, because for the past 2 months, I had suspected something was wrong, and I had quietly been preparing for this very moment. Jack and I had met in college. He was the charming law student who always drew a crowd. I was the practical accounting major who preferred the quiet corners of the library. Somehow, we clicked. He was spontaneous. I was steady. He made me laugh, and I kept our lives organized. After we married, I worked while Jack went to law school. I budgeted every penny. We didn't have much, but we got by. We'd planned to have kids after he finished school, but once he became a lawyer, he changed his mind, said children weren't part of the picture anymore. I was heartbroken, but I accepted it. Instead, I poured my energy into work and taking care of my parents. When my dad passed away 3 years ago, my mom started declining quickly. She developed early-stage dementia, and after a stroke 4 months ago, she needed constant support. Jack resented every minute I spent with her. She's manipulating you, he'd say. You're just letting her drain our time and money. When I told him about the surgery and the cost, he was furious. We're almost at retirement age, and you're throwing everything away on her. But the money was there. We had saved carefully, at least, I thought we had. 6 weeks ago, I noticed something strange. Someone had tried to log into our accounts from a device I didn't recognize. Then I found online searches for retiring in Florida and states with easy divorce laws. One night, I overheard Jack whispering on the phone from his office. He said, "She doesn't suspect a thing. I'll handle it before the end of the month." I didn't want to believe it, but the facts were there. And facts, I understand, numbers don't lie. That's when I quietly started making moves of my own. I opened a separate account in my name. I transferred $50,000, enough to cover Mom's surgery and a few months of bills. I didn't say a word to Jack. Then, 2 weeks ago, I came home early with a migraine. Jack's car was in the driveway. I assumed he was working from home. I entered quietly and heard his voice from the office. The door was slightly open. He didn't know I was there. "Martha has no clue," he said. "I've got access to everything, our joint accounts, her inheritance. We're almost ready. She'll be too distracted with her mother's surgery to notice." Another voice, female, responded. "Are you sure? I don't want to be stuck waiting." "It's perfect," Jack replied. "Once I move the money, she won't be able to trace it. By the time she realizes what happened, we'll be out of the country." I stood there frozen. My heart broke in silence. Then I quietly backed out, left the house, and drove to a nearby coffee shop. I sat there, staring into a cup of tea I couldn't even taste. I made a list, what I knew, what I needed to do. Jack thought he had outsmarted me, but what he didn't know was that I specialize in forensic accounting. I know how to track financial movements. I know how to trace hidden accounts and expose fraud. I just needed time. That night, I went home like everything was normal. He kissed me on the cheek. Feeling better? He asked. A little, I said. I'm just worried about Mom's surgery. He smiled. Don't stress, everything will be fine. He had no idea what I had planned. The next morning, I called the bank. I changed all my passwords. I flagged our accounts for suspicious activity. I contacted a digital security firm, and then I called Patricia Wilson, the top divorce attorney in Chicago. Jack thought he had taken everything from me. But what he didn't realize was that I had just begun fighting back. And I never lose track of what's mine. 4 months, I quietly prepared behind the scenes. I couldn't stop Jack from accessing our joint accounts without raising his suspicions, but I worked with the bank to set up special alerts. Anytime a large sum was moved or withdrawn, I'd get a notification immediately. I needed to let him think he still had control, even though I was the one watching every step. It wasn't easy. Every night, I made dinner and sat across from the man who was planning to leave me broke. I smiled, made small talk, and slept next to him, pretending everything was fine. Jack didn't suspect a thing. He was so sure of himself, so convinced he was smarter than me, that he never noticed I wasn't asking questions. Then, just 3 days before my mother's surgery, the private investigator gave me the final puzzle pieces. Jack had rented an apartment in Miami using a business name I'd never heard of. He'd bought plane tickets, for himself and Veronica. He had even opened secret offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands. He wasn't just planning to leave, he was planning to vanish. That same night, he sat across from me and played the part of the caring husband. "How's your mom doing?" he asked, his tone soft. "Where's the hospital? How long will you stay with her?" I answered honestly, all while watching the wheels turn behind his eyes. He was soaking it all in, figuring out exactly when I'd be too distracted to notice him draining our lives dry. "I wish I could come," he added, sounding genuinely sad, "but I've got that meeting in Denver. I can't move it." There was no meeting in Denver. The private investigator had already confirmed his flight to Miami. "I understand," I said calmly, squeezing his hand. "Work is important." That night, while he slept beside me, I lay wide awake. Everything was ready. I had moved enough money into a private account to get by. My lawyer Patricia had all the documents she needed to file emergency motions. The bank was on alert. We had almost everything, except one final piece of proof, Jack's clear confession, something undeniable that showed what he was planning. Patricia had warned me, try to get him to say something, a text, a call, anything that shows this was premeditated. But Jack had been careful. He avoided saying anything specific in writing or over the phone. He was clever, or at least, he thought he was. By the next morning, I had no more time. My mother's surgery was at 9 a.m. I needed to be at the hospital. I had to trust that what we had would be enough. The waiting room was packed and tense. The smell of disinfectant hung in the air. I sat in a hard plastic chair, my phone in my lap, checking it every few minutes. Nothing yet. Maybe Jack was waiting for the perfect moment. Maybe, I dared to hope, he wasn't doing it at all. Then, at 10:17 a.m., my phone rang. Jack's name lit up the screen. I stepped into the hallway to answer. "How's your mom?" he asked casually, like it was any other day. "She's in surgery," I replied carefully. "Everything okay?" There was a pause, then he said it. "Actually, Martha, I've emptied our accounts. I'm moving to Miami. Good luck with your annoying mom." I froze. His voice was full of pride, even laughter. 26 years of marriage, and I'm finally free. Everything's gone, checking, savings, investments. I deserve this. Even though I had prepared for this moment, the words still knocked the air out of me. My mother was in surgery, and he was gloating about stealing our future. "You took all our money while I'm at the hospital with my mother?" I asked, repeating Patricia's advice in my head, keep him talking, get it all. "Every penny," he said. "By the time you figure out how to fight it, the money will be long gone, untraceable." "And you're in Miami now?" "Beautiful South Beach. Veronica and I are celebrating already." "You won't find us. The condo's not in my name." I could feel my hands shaking, but I kept my voice calm. "Why are you doing this, Jack?" He actually laughed. "Because I can. Because I'm tired of living with someone like you. All you ever care about is your sick mother. I deserve better. Think of it as payment for the years I wasted on you." Then he hung up. I stared at the screen for a moment, heart pounding. Then I opened my phone's recorder and saved the call. I forwarded it to Patricia with a message: "He just called and confessed everything." She replied almost instantly: "Perfect. I'm filing the emergency orders now. Focus on your mom. We've got this." Relief poured over me like a wave. We had it, the evidence we needed. While Jack toasted his freedom in Miami, Patricia was already freezing the accounts, submitting the audio as proof that he planned to defraud me. He had no idea he'd just given us exactly what we needed. 3 hours later, the surgeon came to tell me my mother's surgery had gone well. As I listened, my phone buzzed with alerts. Unusual activity detected, accounts frozen. Then Patricia texted again. "Judge granted the freeze. All transfers stopped. Funds are being pulled back into escrow. We've got him." Jack thought he had pulled off the perfect escape, but he walked right into a trap, one I had spent months building. The boring, responsible wife he thought he could outsmart had just turned the tables, and now, he was about to find out what it really meant to lose everything.